What if the reason millions of people just can't seem to recover from a simple illness isn't actually a broken immune system? What if instead it's a biological alarm inside us that absolutely refuses to turn off? Well, welcome to This Explainer. Today we're decoding a complete paradigm shift in medicine called the cell danger response and looking at exactly why our bodies get stuck in illness.
Real quick before we dive in, please remember that the information we're exploring today is purely for educational awareness, so it's not intended to diagnose or treat any medical conditions. Okay, 40%. That is the staggering percentage of children in the United States who are currently living with a chronic illness. To put that into perspective, that number was just 5 to 10% back in the 1980s. And for adults under 65, that number actually jumps to 60%. We are quite literally looking at a massive, modern epidemic of chronic conditions. We're talking about everything from chronic fatigue syndrome and autoimmune disorders to autism spectrum disorder and severe gut dysfunction. So the big question is, why? To figure that out, let's take a quick look at our agenda. We'll explore the epidemic, rebrand the mitochondria, unpack the cell danger response, see how bodies get stuck in the cycle, identify the chemical threats, and finally, look at unlocking healing. So let's jump right into Section 1, the chronic disease epidemic, a modern medical mystery. We really need to look at chronic disease as this complex whole-body puzzle. You see, traditional medicine has achieved absolutely incredible things in acute care. Acute care medicine is great at neutralizing an immediate trigger, like a poison or a sudden infection. But chronic disease, that's a completely different story. The original trigger might be long gone, but the disease is maintained by the body's persistent reaction to it. The threat vanished, but the body keeps fighting. Moving right along to Section 2, mitochondria, the cellular sensors. To understand why the body keeps reacting this way, we have to zoom way down inside our individual cells, which brings us to a simple but really profound question. What actually controls our healing process? When you get sick or injured, who is the director telling your body to start repairing the damage? Well, meet our misunderstood hero, the mitochondria. Forget what you learned in high school biology about them just being the powerhouses of the cell. Recent science shows they are actually highly advanced cellular sensors. When a threat appears, like a virus, a toxin, or even severe stress, the mitochondria are the ones that actually pull the fire alarm. And that leads us to Section 3, the cell danger response, the misunderstood hero. This is the core concept developed by Dr. Robert Navajax at UC San Diego. It's an ancient survival mechanism built into every single cell of your body. Think of the cell danger response, or CDR for short, as a neighborhood fire alarm and sprinkler system. Imagine your cell is a house. If a fire starts, the alarm goes off, the sprinklers turn on, the windows are boarded up, and communication with the outside neighborhood is completely cut off. The cell intentionally drops its energy to prevent a virus from replicating, and basically hardens its outer shell. Which brings us to Section 4, stuck in the healing cycle, when the alarm stays on. Think about that house for a second. What happens if the fire is successfully put out, but the sprinklers just keep running, the alarms keep blaring, and the windows stay boarded up forever? Well, the cell simply can't return to normal function. For a cell to fully recover from an injury, it has to complete a highly choreographed sequence. When it gets trapped in a repeating loop within this healing cycle, unable to finish the process, that is exactly when chronic disease takes root. So, there are 3 specific checkpoints of healing the cell must navigate. First is containment, basically stopping the damage. Second is proliferation, which just means multiplying to replace any lost cells. And third is differentiation, where the new cells mature and reconnect with the body's communication network. If the process gets blocked at any of these checkpoints, healing completely stalls out. Now here is where this gets incredibly important, especially for our gut health. When a cell gets stuck in these phases, it sends shock waves through the entire body. An abnormally persistent danger response creates massive whole-body disturbances, and nowhere is this more devastating than in your digestive system. The cells lining your gut get stuck in defense mode. That means they stop absorbing nutrients properly, and your delicate gut microbiome is thrown into absolute chaos. This is exactly why stubborn, lingering gut issues are often a massive red flag that your cellular alarm is just stuck in the on position. Let's look at Section 5, the chemical threat, a rising tide of stressors. This begs a really critical question. Why are so many more cells getting stuck in this danger response today compared to the past?
Well, just look at the overwhelming pile of environmental stressors surrounding our cells right now. Our mitochondria are sensing an unprecedented chemical threat. Between the over 7,000 industrial chemicals actively used today, plus massive loads of microplastics, heavy metals, psychosocial stress, and novel viruses, our alarm systems are constantly being tripped. The total load simply exceeds our cells' natural capacity to turn the alarm back off. Finally, Section 6, Unlocking the Healing Cycle, a new medical paradigm. It's not all bad news, though. While we've seen this incredible surge in chronic conditions, jumping from that 5 to 10% in the 1980s all the way up to 40% in children by 2018, identifying the cell danger response gives us a real clear scientific target to potentially reverse this trend. Scientists are currently developing ways to literally signal to the mitochondria that the war is over and it's finally safe to rebuild. You can see the breakdown perfectly on this timeline. On day 1, an injury happens, and the cellular alarm rightfully kicks in. A few weeks later, the actual threat is neutralized, but years later, the patient is still feeling sick because that alarm is still blocking cell communication. If we can just send that molecular all-clear signal, we can unblock that communication and finally allow the body to finish its natural healing process. As Dr. Naviox points out, this entire framework offers a unifying theory for ailments that might seem completely unrelated on the surface. We're talking about things from chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia to autism, autoimmune diseases, and even cognitive decline. They may all share this exact same root cause: incomplete cellular healing. So, I want to leave you with this provocative thought to ponder. For decades, modern medicine has been so intensely focused on fighting the disease, fighting the pathogen, and suppressing the symptoms. But what if the next great medical breakthrough isn't about fighting at all? What if it's simply about convincing our microscopic alarms to turn off, restoring a sense of cellular safety, and just reminding ourselves how to do exactly what they evolved to do: heal? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning and stay curious.